Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party in Rivers State has described the party's national convention held in Ibadan as illegal, insisting its outcomes will not stand. In a statement by its publicity secretary, Kenneth Yowika, the Rivers PDP praised the Independent National Electoral Commission for boycotting the convention, saying the move upheld the rule of law and democracy. The party noted that 2 federal high courts had barred the PDP from holding the convention, while a high court in Ibadan allowed it to proceed. Despite the conflicting rulings, the party went ahead with the event, electing the new national executives and dissolving some state-level party executives. Eureka described the convention as a sham and criticized the disregard for subsisting court orders. Now, to help us understand the legal and political implications, we are now joined by legal practitioner and public affairs analyst, Towo Oseruoja. Thank you so much for joining. Let's go straight into the conversation. Given Turaki's emergence as a national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, amidst, pending litigation, what is the extent of the legal validity and enforceability of his chairmanship under the Nigerian Constitution and the party regulatory frameworks?
Okay, if we look at it from, let's see it from the Federal High Court order restraining that convention for taking place. And if you look at it carefully, the Supreme Court has held that when it comes to issue of inter-party affairs, the Federal High Court, the court has no jurisdiction to entertain issues that has to do with inter-party affairs. But when that issue in question goes contrary to the constitution of the party or the express provision of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria or the Electoral Act, then the court now has jurisdiction to entertain such matter. So being said, you discover that the issue under contention, you see there is already a faction in the PDP. One of the faction approached the Federal High Court in Abuja. And if you look at the Electoral Act, the court that has jurisdiction to entertain such issue when it goes contrary to the known rules and regulations of the political party or the Constitution or the Electoral Act is the Federal High Court. So, and for the court for a court in Ibadan to grant such an order will now it's now a confusion of judicial interruption of the process. So the bone of contention would be which order should the PDP hold onto? Is it one of the Federal High Court or the State High Court? That is an issue the Nigeria Judicial Council need to look at, and also lawyers involved in partaking in that area should also be called to question. But as it is now, based on the conflict, the confusion of the orders of the State High Court, it will be safe to say that the convention held in Ibadan, looking at the position of the Federal High Court, is at risk of nullity if these issues before the Federal High Court is determined in favor of the applicant. But if it's determined against if it's determined against the applicant, obviously the convention still holds water. But as it is now, we'll leave that confusion for the judiciary to sort out, whereby creating anarchy in the political atmosphere, particularly PDP as a political party. Therefore, the person who emerged as the chairman, his fate is still checking. So it all depends on the outcome of both parties. And I know with time, one of the courts will definitely strike out the issue for the order to listing.
Now, when you say that, the situation now in the PDP, the next move that should be made in the PDP is dependent on the judiciary now. Which part of the judiciary should they be looking at? Because one side is the Federal High Court, the other side is the State High Court in Ibadan. So where should the PDP be focused or should be looking towards now? What should they be looking towards at this point?
Well, what the PDP should be looking at is the position, is the case at the Federal High Court, and you should also be aware that the former governor of Jigawa State which is a former minister and also a card-carrying member of the PDP, has also instituted an action for his exclusion. So in the convention, for him to partake in the business. So PDP should not be, I think the State High Court has no jurisdiction over the matter. And I think the Federal High Court is the issue of the Federal High Court. But the bone of contention, which I don't want to dive into, is whether the subject matter dwells, whether the subject matter is within, it can be described as inter-party affair. If it is inter-party affair, you see that, well, the case may not likely stand because it may be struck out. But if it goes down to the breach of the provision of the PDP Constitution, the breach of the provision of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, or the Electoral Act, definitely this convention, just like it was rightly stated by one of the faction, that is a mere political jamboree. So they should be looking out at the position of the Federal High Court, basically.
I'd like to know, do the expulsions of, prominent party members, the likes of Nyesom Wike, Ayodele Fayose, does it meet the substantive and procedural requirements of the PDP Constitution and even the Nigerian law?
Well, if you look at it from the Nigerian law, you look at issue of a fair hearing, which is guaranteed by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But if we look at it holistically, I think it will be unsafe for someone to say that someone like Nyesom Wike, which is the former governor of Rivers State and the current minister of the Federal Capital Territory, is a PDP member. From all intent and purpose, and in any political moral standard society, I think it should be a card-carrying member of APC. His character, his behavior towards the party, I think his suspension or expulsion would have been long before now. But the question should be, is the process laid down by the PDP Constitution followed? If you look at Chapter 10 of the PDP Constitution, it lays down disciplinary procedures that ought to be set up in various levels of the party, from the ward level down to the national level. And also, if you look at Section 59 of the PDP Constitution, people like Wike is captured within that provision of the Constitution, whereby their suspension and expulsion can only be within the rank of the National Working Committee, the National Executive Committee of the party, sanctioned by the National Executive Committee of the party, under certain conditions, that the disciplinary committee was set up and he was invited and he was given fair hearing. So if they look at that area, which I've gone through, I've been following the event, I've not seen where the disciplinary committee was set up. All I heard or we've read on the media is reconciliation committee. And we've never seen where the party invited Wike to come to hear from him. And all these are issues as a result of the fallout of the PDP primaries prior to the general election that led Tinubu to become the president of Nigeria. So if this process are not put in place, though it's a party issue, and the party has gone contrary to the provision of the Constitution, because this process, to the best of our knowledge, except the PDP the PDP will come out and say, well, this process are followed, and Wike did not show up. And if you look at the statement of Bode George at the convention, which I follow keenly, he never made mention of the findings of a disciplinary committee. But from all intent and purpose, in every right-standing moral society, and where political ideology stands, Wike should not be regarded as a card-carrying member of PDP.
Now, let's also talk about the absence of INEC. It was quite obvious. What does that mean for the PDP, the INEC not being there? Looks like they're tilting towards the court order from the Federal High Court. What's your take on the absence of the INEC at this convention?
Well, if you look at the Electoral Act, clearly, it's not necessary. The Electoral Act and the Supreme Court has held that it's not necessary for INEC to be present. What is necessary and what is important that can make such a convention not to hold is not giving the required constitutional required a period, a notice period. So INEC being present or not does not validate or invalidate the convention, except, just like I told you, what should be under context now is the issue before the Federal High Court. So INEC need not be present at the convention for such convention to be valid. All is required is the statutory notice served at INEC, and you could recall that which is the factional team now loyal to Wike, the senator, is it Senator Anyanwu? You discovered that he raised a concern and petitioned the DSS regarding his signature being forged. So that area of the Electoral Act has been fully complied with, being that the notice was issued to INEC, but his signature was being forged. So that is for that. So it's not necessary, and it does not void a convention when INEC is not present.
Now, considering the ongoing litigation and even, of course, the internal factional conflict, what are the principal risks to the People's Democratic Party's, national viability, the public legitimacy, and even, electoral competitiveness, in the forthcoming election?
Well, it should be a concern to every Nigerian, because it's not only for PDP we should be looking at now. We should also be looking at the other political party, including the ruling political party, which is the APC. The risk is that it has really exposed the fact that parties are run by state resources, and parties are run by state resources and run by individual who seems to be more powerful than laid down procedures of the party. And with what is going on now, you could see that the first point of weakening of the PDP was when the governor of Rivers State was suspended and the PDP was just a bulldog. I think, would they be classified as a bulldog? Because they didn't actually back. They didn't back. They were only just sneezing over the side. So that was a high strength of weakening and a death of an opposition. Then if you also look at the way their members played during the debate of if the state of emergency should be endorsed by the Senate and the House of Reps, you discover that these are individuals, not political parties. They are individual interest-driven, not ideology. So, and if you also look at what is playing now, you discover that a governor from the governor of Plateau has declined, has opposed the outcome of the convention. So, he's already a house divided against himself. So, it's just what is going on in PDP is just individual differences of friends who no longer share similar interests again. But I believe with time, what is happening in PDP will happen in all other political parties as time goes.
Wow. That'll be interesting to see, by the way. But thank you so much, Barrister Towa Osarawoja, for having a conversation with us.
You're welcome.